Well, hey guys, hello. Welcome to Kansas, July 2022. We're moving right along. I'm sorry I'm not getting many videos in between these humble mechanic videos, averaging about 2 in between right now, and it's just, I don't know. The weather's got me slowed down, I guess. It's been so stinking hot, but we'll get into the projects later. Couple of comments or things I want to address first. First of all, on the Quadrajet rebuild video, got quite a few comments to the fact that basically I don't know what I'm talking about, and I suppose they're probably right. You can know absolutely everything about the proper terminology for all the parts, and that's great, and maybe I should do a whole lot more research and looking up names on parts diagrams and so forth to get everything 100% correct. But at the end of the day, do you want the carburetor built and do you want it done? Or, I know all you folks, you don't care. You guys are so awesome that watch these. I guess it kind of bugs me that where I come from, getting the job done is more important than being a smart aleck about it. So that's where I'm coming from, and I'm just a regular guy building stuff. No, I don't say the right words all the time, and apparently that's really important to a lot of people. So be it. Now, another comment I got on, it's an older video when I did the ignition system on the 48 Chevy. Maybe it's one of you guys, I don't know. Someone asked, you're not getting spark, I think, on a heavy Chevy, a big old, was it a late 40s Chevy truck? But he said it was positive grounded truck. And I replied, to the best of my knowledge, Chevrolet never built a positive ground truck. I've done just a little bit more research, and so far all of that supports that opinion. I'm not saying that could have happened, but typically GMC in that time period, late 30s through I believe mid 50s, GMC was positive ground, Chevrolet was always negative ground. Now it is possible someone threw GMC parts on there, a generator, a voltage regulator, and away they went. And there were also guys in the past that, they were absolutely adamant positive ground was better, and so they may have switched that particular vehicle over to being positive ground. You don't know, but from everything I've read and know about Chevrolet, as far as I know, it should have originally been negative ground. And I do not know everything about Chevrolet. Don't quote me on that, but in my mind, Chevrolet were kind of the masters of parts exchanging, or keeping components the same as much as they could for ease of replacement. And it really seems odd to me that they would switch over just a few heavy trucks to positive ground when all their other generators and voltage regulators and everything else they use are the opposite. So, and of course, you can use the same generator, you just reverse the polarity. But anyway, what do you guys think? Have any of you ever heard of that? And I think one more test I didn't think to share, if things were just switched over under the hood to positive ground, but the gauge never was, the ammeter. If your system is charging but your ammeter is always at discharge, that would be a clue that it really should be negative grounded vehicle, and they never swap the gauge around. So, you know, but all that said, you can switch all that around and it will work, obviously. I'm pretty sure you need a different voltage regulator, and of course you'd have to switch the polarity on the generator and then everything would work. So anyway, if any of you have an opinion on that or know something about that, let us know. I think it was on a 4100. Let's get into show and tell. Let me bring you over here to the desk. Okay, first things first, I need to apologize again. Dang it! Because I had a comment, or a question I should say, on what brand of spot blaster I use, and that was weeks ago, and I have no idea if you watch these Humble Mechanic videos once again. But this is an Ankilo. I have no idea, but basically, I think I found it on the old eBay or something along that line, and the price was right. Probably half as expensive as the Speed Blaster. That would be what I would consider the name brand of this kind of thing. But this thing has worked absolutely 100% reliably. I have very little problems at all with it. Of course, I shoot the fine black diamond coal slag through it that I get at Tractor Supply, and I have just had no problems at all. It's a great little item. Check them out for yourself. Second thing I want to show you is this old container of Permatex Formagasket. Of course, you know I love the modern tubs of this stuff. I was at an antique store in good old Hutchinson, Kansas, and saw this in a locked cabinet. So I asked the gal to get it out, and I was going to buy it. It was only a few dollars, and I really liked the graphics on it. And she took it to the counter, rang it up, put it in a sack, and it wasn't until I got it home, I don't think I even carried the bag to the door, I think one of the kids did, that I realized it wasn't an empty tube. And so I looked in there. Now I put a wire around the cardboard because it's terribly hard to get out, but cardboard says, remember, charge it to the job. Yes sir, I can do that. And it's been a while since I had this out. Go. Oh, come on. Yeah, the cap came off, but that's okay. Anyway, full tube of Permatex Formagasket in there, other than what's leaked out over the years. There you can see the stain, but I don't really know around what year this would have been new. Maybe one of you guys know the look and the history of this stuff a little bit better. But anyway, that was kind of a neat little surprise that there was a whole brand new tube in there. The third and final thing I'm going to show you is yet another thing that has taken me forever to get around to. Some of you have asked when it's going to be available, and of course, like everything else, it just takes me way too long to get it done. But it is available. It's up on eBay. Search for Kentmore J966 and it will come up. This, of course, is the timing cover centering tool for any 37 through the end of the production run of inline 6-cylinders by Chevrolet. So anything from your 216s to your 292s, this thing will help you install that timing cover correctly and get that seal exactly centered around the crankshaft. And then you pull it out and you can install your harmonic balancer. Now, unfortunately, the material alone, this 3 inches, costs almost $5 plus shipping. So I'm having to charge basically $20 for this. And when you consider the cutting, the chamfering, the knurling of the grips, drill a hole. That's just something I've added. If it gets a little bound up on the end of the crankshaft, that helps you pry it off. And then cutting a key stock on it. There's a lot that goes into the little thing. And I just don't think it's worth my time. I want to make them available. I think it's something that a lot of guys that like stove-bolt Chevys need. But I've got too much other stuff to do to make it free, So right now I'm charging $20. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's what it is. But wanted to let you know that is finally up there. As my grandpa used to say, I am wetter than a peach orchard borer. What he meant by that exactly, I don't know. But anyway. So please excuse me if I'm the flop sweat, just ignore it. We're going to start in on a couple of very different texts here. The first we find in Jonah chapter 1, starting in verse 4. And you could almost just inject or put in the entire book of Jonah. He kind of stayed true to his colors the entire book. But I'm just going to read the first chapter starting in verse 4. And remember, he is running away from the assignment God has given him. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up. How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots and find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord, because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man. For you, Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. So keep in mind, for the rest of this, they did everything they could to spare Jonah's life. These secular men, let's say, these men who did not have faith in the one true God, they did everything possible they could do to avoid taking Jonah's life. They feared the Lord, our God, and in the end they ended up making a sacrifice to him and vows to him. Now I'm going to skip all the way through time to John 19, where we read, "From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, 'If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar.' When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at the place known as the Stone Pavement, which in Aramaic is Gabbatha. It was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about noon. 'Here is your king,' Pilate said to the Jews. But they shouted, 'Take him away, crucify him.' 'Shall I crucify your king?' Pilate asked. 'We have no king but Caesar,' the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but that this man claimed to be the King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." That a boy, Pilate. At least you did something right, huh? One of the very first Humble Mechanic videos I made, I felt led to speak on the despicable case of the abortion industry, specifically here in the U.S. We are all aware of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, and I personally want to give public praise to God for this miraculous event. Miraculous, especially when you consider that they gave this ruling during this time of absolute political corruption. And not only this, but also when I stop and consider that anyone of my generation and younger has never even lived in a world where this was a reality. Or in other words, we have only known an accursed world brought on by the shedding of the blood of the innocent. And I also want to add, I don't have this written down, but it won't have been in the mainstream news, but these justices were under attack. Their homes were literally being stalked. They were literally being attacked for their viewpoints, and obviously we know that the likely outcome of their ruling was leaked much earlier. That was all on purpose to develop more hate and contention in this country. So, absolutely, in my opinion, a miraculous event. I've heard the opinion in the circle of people that I'm around that, and it disturbs me, is that this decision is fine, this is great, but it won't change a single thing. I disagree with that. Do we really believe that a just God will stand idly by and watch this happen without demanding justice? And I mean, watch the killing of the innocent happen without demanding justice? Is it any wonder that society lives wrapped up in the torment of their own desires? Is it any wonder that the traditional family and its values are in a marked minority? Do we really believe that when we take action against life, that there won't be a reaction in our own lives? And surprise, surprise, the church let it happen. And tell me, what has the condition of the church been ever since it sat silent and did not demand this thing to be changed in the very beginning? Now, I realize that many churches and groups and individuals over the years have worked and struggled over this issue. But you have to agree that the greater church in general, across most denominations, have been silent on the matter. But in my opinion, this thing had to happen. The federal court needed to right a huge wrong that it unjustly ruled 50 years ago. Now, it may go back to the individual states where it should have never left, and the people may vote on it once again. I think it's ridiculous we even have to be voting on this, but nevertheless. If you disagree with what I've said so far, let me ask you this. Suppose you have a 1 or 2 year old daughter or granddaughter. Would it be so easy for the mother to say, "No, I don't want her anymore. She gets in my way. I have to feed her all the time. I don't have time for her. Her father doesn't want me anymore, so I want to be free of her. So I'm going to go ahead and ask my doctor to kill her"? Is that not ridiculous? What we are dealing with is the decline and failure of a completely self-centered society. The babies are not the problem, the adults are the problem. There's no need for abortion anyway. The adoption centers and pregnancy crisis centers are more than up to the task of handling this thing, which were not in place 50 years ago when this thing started. Right there, that's a moot point. But if we would follow God's outline on sex and marriage in the Bible, there would be no need for abortion. If we would teach our young ladies that how they present themselves in dress and conduct themselves according to God's outline, we would have little need for abortion. If we would teach our young men respect and sacrifice and righteousness according to God's outline, we would have little need for abortion. If we follow God's outline on demanding justice for crime and serious penalties for attacking women, there would be no need for abortion. If we would see those who are born with mental disabilities as God sees them, we would have little need for abortion. What does all this have to do with the passages I read in the beginning? The church missed it. Completely, hands down, missed it. When secular worldly Pilate asked, "Shall I crucify your king?" the church shouted, "We have no king but Caesar." So Pilate had a sign made and posted over Jesus reading, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Again, the church protested, asking that he take it down. Do you hear what I'm saying? The church is often so blinded by religion that we can't see God, even when he's hanging on a cross right in front of us. Or do we, like Jonah, have the wrong outlook and motivation altogether? He first ran from God, and then the heathen sailors ended up being the righteous ones who worshiped the Lord. Then he went through and spread the word in Nineveh and was upset when they repented. God is moving in this world. I know it seems slow sometimes and things get uncomfortable and uncertain. One woke company after another is going broke. One corrupt politician and world leader after another is stepping down. And in the end, we know that God wins. He is coming back for a perfect church. So the question is, are you willing to petition God for all the problems the world faces and praise him for the victories? And will you have an open heart for those who might look different but are hungry for righteousness? Or are you just going to pout under a withered leaf waiting for their destruction? I thank you. It is getting so stinking hot in here, I've got to go in. Sorry guys. But before I do, the project scenario. I've got the seat adjusters and the base of the front seat for the 48 Chevy all torn down. I really want to start going back together with it. Still waiting on carpet. Come on, SMS, where are you? I keep reaching out to them and I don't know. But anyway. Yeah, I got the base torn down. Right now at this moment, I'm hoping to media blast the base in the next couple days, get a coat of primer on it. That thing's interesting because they never coated it with anything, and just bare metal and very little rust actually on it. So, not that that's important. And then I'll turn my attention to the cushion and the seat backs, just like the rear seat. And then we just got to finish up details, and once again I'll say I'm done with the project, and maybe that'll be true, maybe it will be false again. I don't know. I just keep lying to you. The other thing I wanted to share with you is the family and I were asked if we wanted to come look at an old car, and I made an offer on it. So we may have an interesting and fun little project. So certain projects around here might go away and this one come in. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm getting it for sure because I haven't heard back, but pretty exciting if we do. So that is something. I'm also working on a video for a product review that I cannot find any information on. So be looking for that. That might take another month depending on how long I want to run the test for. And I can't think of anything else. I'm working on an old snap-on voltage regulator tester over there, rewiring it, and I don't know. All kinds of things going on, just keeping it real. So anyway, I'm prattling on now, so I better say goodbye. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you on the next one.